Welcome back, everybody. I'm happy you are here. This is our fifth week, and today we will be sharing some notes about what is and how is diaphragmatic breathing, and I have a very nice visual for it. And on top of that, we will be looking at stress anxiety versus relaxation cycles and some facts and myths about them. And also, I will bring something to your awareness, which is called RIS or reticular activating system, and what kind of a role it plays within our consciousness, because this is back to week first week, which means we are going to be using our witness consciousness in order to proceed ahead and cultivate more well-being in our lives. Just an overview for the weeks that's going to come ahead. We have this week including curiosity, because we will be curious about our sensations within our body, and this will relate to stress and relaxation. Next week we will handle vulnerabilities versus strengths in terms of feelings and the connotations, because all of these things are actually our judgments. And the seventh week will be about fear versus hope, and we will study these topics under the umbrella of compassion. And then back to week 8, it will be about the upper body, which we will detail the shoulders and the neck. But before we continue, how was your improved body awareness? Did you guys ask questions whether my sit bones over the heels, whether my legs are engaging and all that stuff? Because the more you start to feel the psoas, the pelvic floor, and the shape of the spine and the shape of the body as you stand, sit, or walk, the more of an awareness that you will actually increase, and it will be tangible. Well, before we start, let's take a moment to reflect and share here. And I will break you into the groups of 2 again. And if it's okay, maybe I'll just go by the alphabetical order, which will make it, how does it, let me stop. But I want you to consider this question for a second. What is my relationship to my body? Just take a moment. And is your body you, or what is this you and the body? How do you relate to your body? Take a moment to reflect on this, and you guys will have 2 minutes to share your insight with your partner. All right. I hope you enjoyed your moment with your partner, and let's get started here. And before we start, if you have a pen and paper, that would be amazing to do some reflections and to take notes. And if you do not, this could be a good time to get them. We are going, very nice. I see the pens and papers. Awesome. So we are going to start with a beautiful breathing exercise. Let's breathe together. And so the diaphragm actually contracts on itself. So you see how the diaphragm is like a dome here. So this is diaphragm stretched out. So what's going to happen is when you inhale, this diaphragm muscle, just like you are lifting your arm and the bicep curls and bicep gets shorter. So when you inhale, the diaphragm contracts on itself and it gets closer down to your lower, down to your abdominal wall. And when you exhale, it stretches and pushes back up the lungs. So we are just going to breathe in and breathe out like 10 breaths with the visualization of the diaphragm and the lungs. Just look at this image, or if you already know this image and can feel it, just close your eyes and feel it on the inside. And this is going to be about 2 minutes. It's going to start with an inhale. Inhale, please. And exhale. Just feel what's going on within the body. That's it. So just imagine here, every time you exhale, you are actually creating a relaxation, because in order for something to stretch, it has to relax. And every time you are exhaling, you are relaxing the diaphragm to stretch all the way back up. And at the same time, remember the vagus nerve. Every time you exhale, the nerve is actually touching your heart muscle and allowing your heart to relax and release. It's like every time you exhale, you are hugging the heart, and see how the lungs are getting more around the heart, and uh, it's like a hug around the heart. It's telling the heart to slow down, and it's okay, and be at ease, and be at a relaxed situation. So this is our breathing exercise, and then let's continue with the next slide, which is actually what is stress. Before we start, and then let me hide the expressions here. Please take your pen and pencil and sit with yourself, and I'll give you 1 minute. I'll give you 1 minute to write down what is stress for you. Because I will talk a lot about the technicalities and the this and that and all the ups and grades of the stress, but the most important thing, because you are the medicine, is for you to know what is stress. So take a moment, look at your pen and paper, and write down what is stress for you. 1 minute. Wrap up your sentence, and take a moment to read what you wrote, as we are moving forward with the first allow definitions. By the time you probably already know it, let's look at what is stress. The first description, definition in the dictionary is pressure or tension exerted on a material object. And the second noun form is the state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or demanding circumstances. And it can also be used as a verb, which means to give particular emphasis or importance, which I like a lot. Or the second verb form is subject to pressure or tension. But let's look at it differently. Stress is actually a feeling of emotional or physical, let's describe the feeling here, let's say a tension. It can come from any event or any thought that might make you feel frustrated, angry, nervous, so on and so forth. So, in order to wrap it up, let's say stress is your body's reaction to a challenge or a demand. And I am emphasizing the word, or I am stressing the word reaction. So, it's a reaction to a challenge or a demand. So, you see, so far, there is nothing wrong with stress, because there is a pressure or there is a demand, and then you react to it, you respond to it. But maybe there are different kinds of stresses, huh? Actually, in short bursts, stress can be and is very positive, such as when it helps you to avoid a danger, or when you need to meet a deadline, maybe. But when stress lasts for a long time, it may harm your health, decrease your immune function, decrease your focus, memory, and overall the quality of life. And this brings us to some differentiations between acute and chronic stress. But we can talk about stress before mentioning the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, which we have already talked about this a little bit more, but I want to just look at these quickly and understand what these responses are. We already know. The sympathetic nervous system does all this stuff, and notice it's all coming from your thoracic spine. The thoracic spine is the part of the body where your rib cage is located. From the T1 to the T12, you have all the ribs coming out. And the parasympathetic nervous system's nerves, which this top one is being the vagal nerve and reaching out all to internal organs, heart, and the lungs, it is either on the top or at the bottom. So this part is where you have your sacrum and the activation of your pelvic floor, and this part where in the middle you have the diaphragm. From your lumbar spine it starts. So the diaphragm, the diaphragmatic breathing is actually a gateway to regulate whether you are responding from a sympathetic point or parasympathetic point, from a fight and flight or from a relaxation point. And you see all these nerves have effect on each and every organ that governs the body. Moving along, moving along. Let's look at what is a stress response. So this is actually acute stress. And this is the healthy way of understanding the good stress. Once activated upon encounter with a stressor, let's say the Tyrex, your HPA axis, which is the hypothalamic pituitary gland axis, which is the connection between your nervous system and the endocrine system. So your brain tells your adrenal glands to fire up and then produce more cortisol. And then this activation increases the oxygen supply to your heart, to the lungs, and to the muscles, and increase your alertness. So from here, affecting the brain, affecting the body. This gets you ready for the challenge that's coming up. This HPA axis, by the way, is a complex network which includes the cooperation of the central nervous system and, as I said before, the endocrine system. The endocrine system is also very relevant because when we are going to talk about the chronic stress, you will see the connections between the stress, inflammation, and immunity. But in short, during the acute stress, your body is fired up, ready to fight or run away from the danger. If this is an abstract danger, let's say like a presentation right now, or a deadline, or a test or something, then it is still helpful because it will give you the fuel to do the preparation right. Because after all, it is what gets you out of bed too, cortisol, the stress. It keeps you motivated. It makes you to be a better you per se. So stress is good and it is your friend. So in a way, we can make this an affirmation. Stress is good. It's my friend. It is telling me to prepare what I need to prepare for. But like everything else, too much of anything is not good. And in this case, too much of stress might even kill you. And I'm not joking here, unfortunately. Let's talk about chronic stress. Next slide. So one of the key elements of the acute stress is the release or the relaxation that you get after it. For example, if you are fighting a dinosaur and you win, imagine the relaxation or the reward that you are going to get out of it. The work is done, you won. And I don't know, but if you even eat a dinosaur, then you have so much food figured out for the rest of your time for a long time. But if you're running away from a dinosaur and you make it to your safe place, then again, there is a release. You just say, oh, and then rest and relax because you are safe. You are in your cave and the dinosaur is out and it can't come. But you cannot hold all this arousal of stress within you for a prolonged period of times. You see, let's imagine a river. And people put dams on the river. Why? Because they want to, contain a lot of water, a lot of strength, and then use it. But even on a dam, you cannot contain all the water. That's why even at dams, there's a runaway channel. So the arousal from the stress has to be balanced by an equal force, by an equal release, by an equal relaxation. But imagine the dinosaur never dies or never stops chasing you. You have to learn how to live with the dinosaur. It sounds unimaginable, but we don't have dinosaurs running around as our stressors. But we are all living or have lived with a dinosaur at some point in our lives. Imagine a stressor that always persists. Like you can't fight it, nor can you run away from it. It can sound too hard, but what about, let's say, never ending bills? What about deadlines one after another? What about maybe a dreading boss? Maybe some family conflicts? Or what about the fear that we are constantly fed through our popular culture? Unfortunately, unlike our ancestors, we might not have the opportunity to face our stressors like they did with the dinosaur. By the way, guys, this is just an example. I know that humans and dinosaurs did not coexist. There is maybe like a 70 billion year gap between. I'm just using a dinosaur as an example. But let's stay on track. Because things got very sophisticated in today's world, and because of the life that we are taught to lead, we can't even see that our stresses are always up in your face, and we do not even have the awareness that we are living in chronic stress. Why? Because it became normal. We made it normal. With it, cancers became normal. Autoimmune diseases became normal. Mental health conditions became normal. Do you see where I am getting at? Do you see the problem here? Normalizing this unnatural way of life, we had to normalize everything else that hurts us. But it is hard for somebody that is stressing over bills to pay. It's very hard for them to face that the fact that they are stressed is not because of the bills, but because of fear of death and the fear of unknown. But people don't want to connect the dots. They just want to pay the bill, and then continue thinking that they will be relaxed. But rather than stressing over the bills or the bosses or this and that, people should face their fears. But it might sound too much. Most people think that they are not even afraid of death until it becomes a reality. But let's not divert too much here. And by the way, I can't really wait to talk about fear on week 7. Are you guys excited about it? Maybe, maybe not. Yeah, fear is another issue, or let's say another topic. But back to the dinosaur. So when the dinosaur never goes away, the body starts to function differently. Stress is like, let's say, salt. A pinch of it is awesome in your soup, but when you put a handful of salt in a cup of soup, and then you let me know how you like it. Yeah, I see some smiles. Up here, it says the reasons for chronic stress: inadequate sleep, poor nutrition, emotional distress. But notice the arrows. They are going both ways. It's like, is it the chicken or the egg? If the entire norm of culture became investing in a safe future, let's say, then your stressor will never go away. And as we can clearly understand from the situation with the COVID-19, the plans for the future, the investments for the future, this and that, are nothing but constructed securities. The security we have to find should be for now, this present moment. Because the present moment always persists. There is always now, but we don't know whether there is a future. However, we sacrifice everything for a secure future that is probably never to come. By the way, we find security in what we know, but miracles happen out of the unknown. Because if everything that happened according to what we know, then life would be just things repeating and perpetuating themselves over and over again. But luckily, life is way more than that. So here is my virtual toast to the unknown that is up ahead of us, that is actually in our labs at this moment. But when you are in chronic stress here, it is what happens to you. So your attention decreases, your perception shortens, the short-term memory is gone. Because imagine like like you are so alert in a stressful situation, but if you are in a stressful situation for 24/7, then you are basically burning your RAM. You're basically burning your short-term memory, and your learning decreases. You can't come up with words. The finding word decreases. So you perpetuate yourself in this vicious cycle. Let's look at the relationship though between the stress and the immunity, because it is a little bit deeper part of this. And there's a lot of arrows here, a lot of colors here. But what we are looking at here is the role of stress-induced activation of the HPA axis and the cortisol on your fight and flight system and the rest and relax system. And the neurotransmitters to release to combat the immune cell activation. These are the immune cells at the bottom, and we'll go through them now. So stress, which is the green arrow acting on the brain, it affects the brain functions directly through the locus coeruleus. Again, we are not going to go too deep about the brain parts, but this is part of the RAS, or the reticular activation system, that I'm going to detail shortly, which is the brain stem, let's say, and hypothalamus, and the other brain regions. So it has an effect on all parts of the brain almost. But in a healthy individual, stress is compensated by cortisol, which also blocks the activation of inflammatory immune cells. So when there is stress, the cortisol is released and it blocks inflammation within the immune cells. But if cortisol is continuously activated, like under the chronic stress situation, then the inflammatory immune cells start to downregulate their receptors. So they are becoming less receptive to cortisol, which contributes to stressing the brain regions with more inflammation, because they are not abiding by the cortisol anymore, because it's just being overproduced. When cortisol fails to downregulate this inflammatory response, so there's more inflammation in you, then it starts to happen that cortisol resistance starts to take place. This gives a relative idea between the relationship between stress, anxiety, and depression as well. Severe cases of stress can be seen as anxiety disorder because you just don't know what to do, but increased levels of it can lead to depression, because once the person develops cortisol and adrenal resistance, then real depression develops. Hence the famous quote that depressed people say, not even having the willing to get out of bed, right? Like we all heard, there's no reason for you to get out of bed, which means you burnt all your adrenal and cortisol sensitivity. In case of adrenal resistance, the adrenal attempt to help the body to resist prolonged stress by producing persistently increased cortisol. So when you are stressed, the cortisol is supposed to help, but you are always in stress, so you are producing more cortisol, and it's having this adverse effect in your immune cells. And then the immune cells start to resist the cortisol, and then eventually they are going to resist the downregulation from central and sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system too. So it's all a downward effect. In this situation, the communication and the regulatory function of fight and flight and the rest and relax system is also affected, which will account for maybe various aspects of immune dysfunction, such as increased and chronic infections or autoimmune diseases. So you guys, you have to make sure to relax as if your life depends on it, because guess what? It does. I actually am not a dietitian or know anything about food, but when I was doing the research, I found some very interesting facts about stress and eating. So acute stress, like when you are running away from the T-Rex, leads to appetite suppression because you can't really think about food. But then this is also true that once the appetite is reduced by stress, cortisol has a secondary role, which is to increase your appetite again. In the case of the dinosaur, this makes sense. You just ran away, spend a lot of energy running away from a predator. So part of the cortisol's role is to get you to replace all the energy that you just burned by eating more than normal. But if you're stressed because of a deadline, if you are stressed because of a test, if you are stressed because of something that does not make you burn extra energy, then this might not help you. If cortisol is elevated all the time by ongoing stress, then so will be the drive to eat. But this is not the only part. Cortisol also encourages us to store energy from food as fat. So if you look at two people, one is stressed, one is not stressed, and then they are both eating 500 calories, the stressed person will store more of it as fat than the not stressed person. Basically, this is storing energy, stockpiling energy, just in case you have to run away or fight again. But again, most of our stressors today, they are not physical. We are not physically running away from them. Actually, this is sad. We might be trying to run away by procrastinating, but it generally makes things worse. And just on a side note on procrastination, it is not a time management issue, because everybody has 24 hours within their day, and some people are doing way better than others. So it's not a time management issue, it's an emotional regulation issue. But let's look at it. The basic instinct to run away from stress, that's what procrastination is, rather than being able to handle it. But once more, because you aren't physically running away from the stressor, storing fat is probably not so useful if the source of the stress is not going to physically affect you. So when you are chronically stressed and the cortisol is increased all the time, you not only overeat, but also you store more of your energy as fat without necessarily engaging in the physical activity to counterweight the balance. But don't get me wrong here, even if you are not overeating and watching a very careful diet, you will still be prone to store more of your energy as fat because of the stress response. So simply put here, there is this thing called leptin, and you will be more storing energy as fat because when you are stressed, the stress diminishes the leptin release, as you see here. Once there's cortisol, the fat cells has the leptin, and then you stop burning them, and then there is less leptin. Leptin is the part of the hormone that tells you that you are full. Leptin is the hormone that tells you, okay, you don't have to eat anymore. But then once there's no leptin release, which is there is no inhibiting factor to your hunger, which in turn is also diminishing your fat burn. So if you are in chronic stress, it's not released. So you do not only store more fat, but also burn less fat. That is a very key component and the relationship that I found, which creates a vicious cycle which perpetuates itself. And I heard this, like, I just drink water and I put on fat from people, and I didn't understand it before, but it kind of makes perfect sense because your body is sticking, like it's sticking to dear life to your fat cells, and any little bit of energy that you receive is going to be stored as fat. So let's take a breath here, guys. Enough talk about stress. Let's take a nice long inhale and an even longer, deeper exhale. Let's do it one more time. Nice big inhale and a big slow exhale. We are taking this moment as the next slide is about anxiety. And just like stress, nobody else knows your anxiety better than you. So pick up your pen, pick up your paper, give yourself 1 minute, and I can make you more anxious. Tick tock, tick tock. I can give the sound image or a time image. But let's do this. I'll give you 1 minute and to say, what is anxiety for you? What is your anxiety? And what is your relationship with it? Begin now. Let's give it some 10 seconds to wrap it up. Notice how you felt it. Notice what you thought about it. And when you are finished writing, take a moment to read over what you wrote, just so you can witness what you wrote and what you express yourself. Welcome back. So first thing about anxiety that I have to say is anxiety is actually normal. It's a healthy feeling, but when people experience chronic stress as a lifestyle, then the anxiety levels also increase to maybe even a crippling level. Anxiety can trigger your fight or flight stress response and release a flood of chemicals and hormones into your system. In the short term, this increases your pulse, it increases your breathing rate, so your brain can get more oxygen. But imagine you're always breathing to the top of your lungs. Imagine you're only breathing to the top of the brain. This prepares you normally to respond appropriately to an intense situation. But again, like if you are always breathing like that, then your mind will say, and I'll say this in quotes, your mind will go crazy. Too much of mental activity with the rest of the body shut down basically is not the healthiest way of living. Anxiety is a sensation and it's observable. But when a person lacks the awareness and the tools to manage it, then it can lead to even generalized anxiety disorder, which is when a person feels anxious on most days, worrying about lots of different things for a period of 6 months or more. I mean, just like normalizing stress, we might even have normalized this. There are actually other types of anxiety disorders, such as social anxiety, specific phobias, panic disorder, the OCD, and there was one more. Even PTSD, it's also classified as an anxiety disorder. But leaving these aside, you know what is anxiety for you. You took a moment and reflected on it. If it wasn't for the interpretation and the connotations that we came with, that we came up for it, isn't this a great feeling? Like, notice the multitude of sensations that you receive when you feel anxiety. So imagine us not interpreting those monumental sensations as anxiety, but let's think that they are sensations of growth, feelings of getting better. How would you feel if the connotation around anxiety is it is the sensation of getting better? It is the sensation of developing. Let's take the uneasy perceptions of anxiety away and consider it a feeling of venturing into a forest of the unknowns, from the other side of which you will emerge as a better version of yourself. So maybe we can learn from stress and anxiety rather than eradicating them, diminishing them. Oh, I just want to relax. Let's end them in a way that we understand them, we perceive them negatively, and use them for our higher benefit. But before we reframe and rewire, we have to understand there is a gatekeeper to our experience of life. Remember, your mind is the decoder of consciousness. It's a translator of consciousness into a language so you can personally understand it rather than with what is actually. So the name of this decoder is actually RAS, or the reticular activating system. And this is the last part of the slides, almost the last part. So what is RAS? It is the part of your brain that controls the sleeping, waking, and attention. It is a very sophisticated filter. It's like a socket, imagine your entire brain running with a USB, and this is the USB, and whatever is let in through the USB is whatever is going to be perceived. So this is the socket that defines your reality. It acts like an executive assistant, and like, is it possible to reach an executive person without their assistant approving you, they will just not pencil you in. Like no matter how much you try to reach to them, you will just not get, because there is a person who is not even putting you on the schedule. So this part is actually allows you to focus on what you value, allows you to focus what you perceive as threat. Like, is it the gunshots or the fireworks? It is supporting you when you set goals. Because imagine sometimes like you want to buy a car tire, and all of a sudden you start to see all different car tires on all different cars. Like whenever my registration stickers are going to expire, I see all the other tickets that are going to expire on the license plates, because that is where my attention is, and then it's allowing me to receive all those information that I would normally inhibit. So this reticular activating system, it is the gatekeeper or gatekeeper. It is what is to be processed by the brain. You see, even all the sensory information is coming in before they hit your brain, is coming in through this RAS. What you see, what you hear, it's all coming through this gate. There are, guys, 11 million bits of data per second for your brain to be processed. It doesn't mean anything to me. It means just a lot of information coming in. But it means more when you understand that your conscious brain is only processing 50 bits per second. So now there is a ratio to it. Now we can understand what 11 million bits mean. So it's 11 million bits to 50. So if I want to see a world in which everything is helping me to achieve my goals, then I'll probably view the world accordingly. But if I believe that everybody is out to get me, then I will see that world too. Remember, guys, 11 million to residual information to 50 that is being processed. 11 million to 50. Our capacity to perceive is just so little in comparison to the vast ocean of consciousness. And I think this is probably why the affirmations, the visualizations, the goal settings work. You are basically training your RAS to start allowing in new bits of data that's going to help you, rather than operating on the old belief system. Like if you say that you are not a valuable person, then everything around you will point out to you that you lack value because of the RAS. But then once you retrain it and then you do the affirmations, I am a person worthy of love, I am a person who can handle stress, I use anxiety as my fuel to be better and to prepare better, then you are going to activate this and you will start to see the world in a way that those 50 bits of data that you can perceive are actually going to be something that is going to help your higher self. Is this too much? Does it make sense a little bit? Okay. So this is the gatekeeper for your success or failure in life. So in other words, the reticular activating system is the attention center of your brain. It is the key to turning your brain on. You can deliberately program this by choosing the exact messages that you want to send from your conscious mind. For example, you can set goals or say affirmations and visualize your goals. This is why those practices actually help, because you are training your mind to be, let's say, your best self. But what is this relaxation? Let's take one more minute. Pick up your pen and paper and see what is relaxation for you. How do you feel it? What does it mean? Where does it go? And what does it do for you? Begin, please. Let's wrap it up here. And to basically give some little ideas, relaxation is not doing anything. That's the first thing. The second thing, if we are going to say what it is, and surely and certainly it is a practice. And I actually have my own definition of relaxation that is right here. It's not a state of not doing anything, but it's a state in which the container, your body, contains whatever needs to be contained comfortably. So, relaxation is a stage in which your body can hold all the emotions, all the sensations, and all the thoughts in a comfortable way. Just like the best example of stress and how to deal with, how to handle stress is kids. You tell them something, they are getting so anxious, they start to do jump. My niece starts to do cartwheels immediately the second she is anxious because there's an overflow of emotions and sensations. And then when you don't know what to do with it, you just burn it. So here we can either expand our capacity to hold or let out. Like you can scream, you can shout, you can do cartwheels, push-ups, you can burn it, or you can go with it, but you just can't hold it still. It is a tremendous amount of energy that you need to learn what you need to do with it. So it's relaxation is not doing anything. It's again a state in which your body can contain whatever needs to be contained comfortably. And with all this said, what to do with all this? Okay, what? Well, what is the practice, everybody? So we are going to practice, but before we practice, allow yourself to just go through in your mind to retain all the information or the bits and the pieces of information that you receive, or your reticular activating system allowed you to retain that you find useful for your own being. As you are allowing this to run through your mind, you can also start to settle down and get comfortable, because I do have a very nice meditation for you all. And let's see where it goes. I'll give you 1 minute to get comfortable. You can close your eyes, you can lie down, you can stand up, however and whatever works the best for you. So imagine the diaphragm. As you breathe in and breathe out, notice the motion of your diaphragm. Inhaling, let the diaphragm contract on itself. And exhale, release, and relax. So here, allow your body to exhale everything out. And don't do for the inhale. Observe the incoming breath. So let's just focus on the exhales here. Exhale everything out. Push the air out. Once everything is empty inside, just relax the belly and allow the breath to come back in naturally. A few more of those breaths. Exhale fully and just wait for the next breath to happen. Exhale fully and allow the breath to come in naturally. Lengthen the end of your exhales. When you think you are done with the pushing the air out, exhale a little bit more and observe the incoming breath. Now resume your normal breathing here. Breathing in, breathing out ever so comfortably. And with each and every breath, allow your imagination to be unleashed. Each and every breath, allow your body to release and relax. And imagine yourself like you are in a dense forest. Start to notice the shapes and the colors and the textures of the trees, of the rocks, of the branches and the leaves. Imagine you are standing on a rock. Notice the soles of your foot on the rock. Now you can either imagine or physically do it. Squeeze the soles of your feet like you are making a fist with your feet. Squeeze your feet as hard as possible, again, either in your imagination or physically. Make it so hard, just like the rock. Hold this tension, keep it strong, and allow your feet to relax completely. Completely relax and release. Let's do it one more time. Notice the soles of your feet, either physically or imaginatively. Squeeze your feet so hard, like the rock, and let it go. Relax and release. Completely let your feet to be at ease at this moment. And bring your awareness to your palms like you are holding a stick or a branch. Now imagine, either physically or imaginatively, squeezing your hands and palms, making a fist as tight as possible, or maybe squeezing into the branch. Hold it as hard as you can and release and relax your hands and palms. Completely relax and release. And let's do it one more time. Like you are holding that branch, contract your hands, palms, make it a fist as hard as possible. Allow the tension to build. And then relax and release completely. Now notice your entire body, just breathing in, breathing out. Maybe you are lying on the rock. Physically or in your imagination, contract all the muscles that is available for you. Contract the shoulders, the core, the hips, the legs, everything into your core as hard as possible, just like the rock. Everything getting together, getting tighter, getting stronger. And let go, release and relax. Completely let your body to relax and expand on the floor, on the rock, in the forest. With each and every breath, allow your body to relax a little bit more as you keep noticing the qualities of the forest. Notice what you see, what colors, what textures. Notice what you smell in the forest. Notice any sounds in your imagination. Do you hear the wind through the leaves? Or is there any forest dwellers that is sharing their songs with you? As you are in the forest, let's find a tree that is just perfect for you. Find your own tree in the forest and sit by it. Be with this tree and maybe be this tree. Take roots with it as deep as possible and stand tall with it as high and expansive as it's possible. Just breathing, just being with the tree. Imagine the wind is blowing from the right side to the left side. So just like the wind, start to breathe from the right side of the body and breathe out from the left. Just imagine it. Inhale from the right side of your body. Exhale from the left side. Allow the wind to pass through you. Inhaling from the right side, exhaling to the left. Now allow your body to breathe normally. Breathing in, breathing out, and notice how your body feels like the tree, as the tree. And let's shift the direction of the wind. Inhale from the left side and exhale from the right, just in your imagination, like the wind blowing from the left side to the right side. Like you are breathing from the left nostril to the right nostril, to the left arm to the right arm, to the left leg to the right leg. Let this pattern coach you. Allow your body to breathe in and out naturally, comfortably. And being the tree, being in the forest, let's imagine it's raining. Notice the sounds of the rain, or even maybe the smell of the rain. Now, as you imagine, inhale with the rain dropping down to the roots, and exhale, pushing the water through your trunk up to your leaves and the branches. So, inhaling down to the roots, exhaling up to the branches. And you are the tree, from the roots to the trunk to the leaves. Inhaling down with the rain, exhaling up from the roots to the trunk, up to the branches. Now allow your imagination to go back to the tree and release this pattern of breathing as well. Let's let go of the rain, enjoy the wind, and expand yourself from this one single tree now in the vastness of this entire forest. Be the forest. All the rocks, all the trees, all the mountains, all the lakes. Be the entire forest. And imagine in this vastness and this calmness, allow one of your stressors to come to mind. And imagine it to be just one tree within the forest. This tree being your stressor, where is this tree in the forest? How does this single tree look? How does it feel? How do you feel within your body when you are looking at this single tree within the vastness of the forest? What changes within the body and what remains unchanged? Now bring your awareness back to yourself, back to your breath. Just enjoying the forest. No one judges one broken tree in the entirety of the forest, as it is a part of the forest. It is one of the things that makes the forest. But maybe when it comes to us, we seem to focus a little bit too much on what is broken. Maybe we lack the appreciation of our entire vast being. Or maybe we do not see the purpose of a fallen tree. It feeds the forest. So let's take a moment to appreciate the fallen trees within us, as well as appreciating the entirety of our being, like the vast forest, like this beautiful whole forest. Slowly, gently bring your awareness back to your breathing. And on a count of 5, slowly come back to this present moment. 4, becoming aware of your surroundings. 3, becoming aware of your sensations within the body. 2, becoming more aware of your breath and your body. And 1, gently, slowly open your eyes back to the present moment. Looking ahead, week 6. So it's back to getting to know the sensations and learning from the sensations. And the main theme will be our strengths and vulnerabilities, or what we consider as strength and what we consider as vulnerability. And we only really step into our strengths only after when we understand what vulnerabilities we hold, because that's where the growth is. That is the bitter truth. And the practice will be acceptance. Who is excited for it? I'm excited for it. And you do have a self practice, and the self practice is incorporating with what happened since last week. So you are going to incorporate this body awareness that you have already cultivated from the previous week and notice what is tense in the body. So stress, by the first definition, is basically tension. But then the second is pressure. So notice what is tense, what is under pressure in your sensations and in the mind too, because your thinking might be very tense too. And when you close your eyes and, okay, I'm thinking about ABC right now. And then if I really bring my awareness to that ABC thing, there is actually a location in my brain that I am creating that thought. And then if I'm thinking about maybe XYZ, it might be here. And once you're becoming more aware of how you feel within the brain when you are thinking, just like relaxing a muscle of the hand, you can relax that thought too. But we'll get more into it as we continue. But just notice what is tense, what is under pressure, because in order for you to release it, first you have to become aware of it. And then notice maybe breathing into it and expanding that point of interest, anything. So first increase your awareness. And if you come up with any revelations, you can always share it on our group, Facebook group, which is the US the Medicine. You can just write that on Facebook